Shadow Legends video. I'm IceMan. How you doing? Today we're going to be doing another guide video on Wurlim Frostking this time. So, without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start with his skills. Okay, so Wurlim Frostking is a defense-based legendary from the Night Revenants faction. He came out with the one and only battle pass that we've had. I really wish they'd bring out another one. It was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely great value for people. I was near enough free to play at the time. I did pay for the battle pass obviously, but you know, it got you some great champions and some great loot and everything, and even free to play people got something out of it, so it was really great value. They really need to pull the thumbs out and do something on that, I think. Anyway, so he's an interesting character. He's not one of the top meta champions, we know that, but he is still a legendary champion. He is still a very cool champion, at least I think so anyway. So we've got Winds of Winter. His A1 attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a freeze debuff for one turn. Places a perfect veil buff on the ally with the lowest HP for one turn if the freeze debuff is placed. Damage is based on defense. Now, I've not booked him out because he isn't a champion I use that much. I am using him in 3v3, but for me, I don't use him enough to make it worth the legendary books. And you'd have to make that decision yourself. Obviously, you can increase his buff chance if you place books into this ability, and that certainly wouldn't be a bad thing. Because you'd obviously bring his chance to freeze up to 50%, which also then places a perfect veil on the person with the lowest HP, so that's really cool. Obviously then mitigates damage on those people. And so we're off to his A2, Frostbite Blast. Attacks all enemies, has a 70% chance of placing a 30% decreased crit damage debuff for 2 turns. Places a 30% increased crit damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. So this is really cool. Obviously it takes away the enemy's crit damage, boosts your crit damage. That's a nice one. I have booked this one a little bit, as you can see. It was back before I sort of realised that maybe, although he is an interesting champion, he wasn't quite meta or good enough for me to want to put all my books in and spend that sort of money in, so I started concentrating on other champions. Again, you can bring the cooldown down from 4 turns to 3 turns with this, and increase the buff chance. It's already at 70%, you can bring it up to 100. To be honest, it's a cool ability, and most of the time it seems to land anyway, so I personally wouldn't really bother. He doesn't need books in this to be decent. Obviously it'd help if you've got him, and if he's your only legendary and you don't think you're likely to get one for a long time, you've got a whole load of books sat there that you've managed to accumulate somehow, then by all means, it's certainly not the end of the world to book him. He's certainly not a top tier champion, but he is good. He is good. Yeah, and especially if he's your only legendary, there's a good chance you're going to use him, you know. Okay, so his A3 Icegrave Armour places a 25% strengthen buff and a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. Now this is a really cool ability. Strengthen basically mitigates damage, so you basically get a 25% damage reduction. And then increased defense obviously increases your defense by 60%, which on a defensive champion means you're taking less damage and also dealing more damage. And if you have even more defensive champions in your team, again the same goes for all of them, so you're all going to be taking less damage and you're all going to be doing more damage, so it really is quite cool that way. It's a really good ability. I actually quite like it myself. If you can get all the books in it, and since there's no wasted books here for damage or anything like that, I'd say it's actually worth doing if you're going to use him. I certainly use him in Faction Wars if nowhere else, but I use him in Faction Wars and 3v3 Arena, so you know, you could do the same, and then I say that makes him worth the books at some point when I've got them to spare. It's just I've got other champions I want to book first, so he's not a high priority for me, and he is still good as is. So then he's also got an aura, increases ally defense in arena battles by 30%. So, you know, again, using him in 3v3 arena, you can get a nice little boost to your defense if you're going to use him as the lead from that. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's go take a look at his masteries. I've not actually got his masteries done. I'm going to have to do something about that, I think. Now, bearing in mind, I've not really done much on his masteries. All I've done is a little bit of accuracy and the first couple of bits of crit rate, crit damage, and damage at full health. He actually still does fairly well for me, so actually I'm kind of keen to actually get him masteried up and see how much that improves him by, because I've actually been enjoying using him, to be honest. I gave him a bit of a trial. He'd been sat in my vault for a little while. I hadn't used him for a while. I used him ages ago when I first got him, obviously, a bit, but I've pulled other champions since and not really used him, and then knowing that I was going to be doing this guide video, I decided to pull him out and do some play testing with him and give him a go. And actually, he's now made it onto my 3v3 team permanently because I did that. And I thought, you know what? Actually, no, he's a good champ. I enjoy him. He was better than what I already had in place. So now I'm using him. Obviously, we can't delve much into his masteries. And how? I mean, we can look at how I would master him, I suppose. So obviously, he does place a freeze, so accuracy is beneficial, and that then gives you a thing. But his main thing is really buffs. But having said that, his buffs are really cool, so you could still use the support tree to get the accuracy, and then personally I would probably move more towards this way to get extended gifts or whatever it is, lasting gifts. So that the buffs he puts up, the strength and the increased defense, last for longer. You'd really get a lot of value out of him for that. Now, he actually can hit pretty damn hard. He's good like that. And, you know, he's only got the 1 debuff really. So, with that being said, I probably wouldn't go for accuracy. I'd probably do a fairly traditional damage build with him. I mean, in my case, I'm using him mainly in the arena and faction wars, and I think that worked quite well. So I'd probably go for a fairly standard sort of arena damage build down towards flawless execution would be where I'd probably go. But again, as with any masteries, it's always have a look at how you use him, where you use him, and what you want to use him for before you make any decision on that. So let's take a look at how I've got his artifacts. Now, again, I've had some feedback. People like to see these champs in lower gear that's more attainable, more sensible. So basically that's what I've done. I've not really changed his gear up all that much since I started reusing him in 3v3. I've kept it as is for the moment. I will probably increase it and make it better over time, because obviously I want to do better and progress better, and it'll help him in faction wars and whatnot as well. But for the moment, I haven't got the silver and whatnot, so I've not spent the time to really gear him up much. So we'll start off. We've got the banner. We've got an accuracy banner on him. I'll roll that up to 16 as soon as I can. It's got 1 roll in speed, 1 roll in defense. That's good. So you boosted his speed, you boosted his defense. That's cool. I like that. I've gone for crit damage on the amulet. You could go crit damage. You could go defense. You could even go HP. To be honest, it's your choice. He does hit pretty hard, so I personally would go quick damage, and obviously you then, if you can get a good accuracy substat, and I've managed to get a roll into accuracy, so that's good, then that'll do well for you. Again, with the ring, that's going to be an out and out simple, and I've got a nice roll there where I've got a double roll in the defense percentage, but that's what you want, is defense with defense percentage is what I'd go for. Now, the boots, this is rare, I'd usually go for speed boots, but I didn't have any spare speed boots in the speed set, and I was trying to see if I could build him more defensively and still get his speed up. Now, I've not actually managed to get his speed up that high. It's only at, 182. But that's not too bad, it's not brilliant. It still does alright for him, and obviously I've managed to get defense boots on him, so his defense is really chunkier for that, and I lose quite a lot if I take that off. I did have a look at the option. Obviously I need to roll that up to max as well. Obviously to complete a speed set we've then got a defense chest. I mean, personally with this guy, Accuracy is useful, definitely very useful, because you do want him landing his debuffs. But I would say the main thing you want him there for is doing some damage and also for his buffs. So personally, although accuracy is useful on him, I wouldn't necessarily prioritise it. I would say you want speed and defence and maybe even crit rate and crit damage before you look too heavily into the accuracy. Again, it depends, you know, the stun can be handy, then obviously, the freeze that he does can be handy, then on top of which you get the perfect veils placed on somebody, which also mitigates damage, means that person can't even be targeted. So, you know, it is actually really useful. There's a lot of ways you could build him, and that's the thing with him. Obviously, I've gone for a standard crit rate set gauntlets with some accuracy, with some speed. The rest of the stats aren't great. Again, we've gone for a divine speed set, which gives him a shield, obviously. Not even rolled up that much. I need to really roll his gear up and boost him up a bit higher, but this shows you what he can do at the sort of level he's at, which will give you a nice clue, because obviously he's in a couple of 4-star pieces, the rest is all 5-star, and a lot of it's not even fully rolled up, and some of it really could be rolled up even just to 12. So you've got crit damage, speed and defence, great. Obviously the set's on him to give him speed. Again, we've got speed, flat defence, which is a bit of a shame, but crit rate, and then, you know, we've got a nice weapon on him here. It's an odd piece, but you've got accuracy, a double rolling speed and a double rolling crit rate, which, that's great, you know. So his total stats are 28,000 health, 3,000 defence, again that could be higher, 182 speed, 102 crit rate, so just around the sort of area you want it, 92 crit damage, that could be higher obviously if you get some better, if I get some better pieces. His accuracy is at 218, again I'd like that higher, especially since he is used in arena. That'll do you for faction wars, more than likely. Maybe for the highest levels you might need it a little bit higher than that still, but it's still going to do fairly respectable for that. So let's take him into some content, shall we? We will start off with a dungeon, I think. And I'll go for dragons. Can he be used in any of the other dungeons? Yes. He's not necessarily going to be overly beneficial in Fire Knights. You know, he's there, he'll give protection and help carry your team, but again he's a single hitter and an AoE hits, and then the rest is buffs and nothing that affects turn meter, so you know, he's not going to be brilliant there, but he's usable. He is going to do fairly well for you, I'd imagine, in dragons, and he'll do fairly well for you in Ice Golem. Spiders, again, he can provide protection certainly at earlier stages, but at later stages, without stuns, without any other benefits that he just doesn't really bring, I personally wouldn't say use him in spiders. He can do any of the keeps, and you can use him in faction wars, and obviously I think he's fairly decent in the arena. And even in Gold 4, I do see people still using him, so he's a good champ, you know. Alright, let's take out Warlord, shall we? Get him in there. And we'll see how this goes. Now, as I usually do with one of these videos, what we'll probably do is just watch the first part, first wave if you will, see what sort of damage he does, and then we'll come back at the end and show you what he's actually doing there. So there you go, you've got the crit damage, decreased crit damage has gone out. There you go for your strengthen and your increased defence. So the defensive based champions, which I think actually in this run is pretty much just him. Unfortunately, he's going to hit harder, but everybody's going to be taking less damage. So that's cool at least. I'm not sure that we'll actually succeed with him because he's not as good a carry as Sil or Warlord. and obviously we don't have anybody to revive in this team. And that's the thing, you know, Warlord brings shields, he brings heals. Wurlim, although he's good, and he'll certainly do lower levels, and, you know, if you had somebody else to pair in here that maybe does a bit better, the comp might be slightly better. He'd possibly do Dragon 20 okay, but I wouldn't say he's your best champion for it. But again, he can still do it. And if he can't do 20, he'll certainly do you at lower levels when you're building up, depending on when you pulled him. So that's pretty decent. And as you see, we're getting through this wave. It's taken the usual sort of minute and a half-ish. As you can see, everyone's still up because of the buffs he's putting out. Right, so we'll cut it there and we'll come back at the end of the fight and we'll see how we've done. Even if it's a fail, I will let you know that it was a fail. It gives you an idea. Obviously, you've seen that he isn't geared anywhere near as well as he should be, which kind of says it all. The fact that he's doing this well when he's not that well geared kind of shows that if he was better geared, he'd be doing a bit better. See, we've lost Rose and Banshee, so this will probably be a fail. But we'll come back at the end and see. Okay, and we're back. So, as you can see, it was a defeat. I did say without Frozen Banshee, it was likely going to be. So, not the best thing to show, really. Like I say, he's not the best geared. My guess is, if I'd go in for a lower level dungeon, and certainly if I'd taken somebody out and brought in somebody that can, maybe even if I'd lost the defense down, it'd take longer. But if I put in a reviver there, I may well have managed to get through it. He's a good champ, but he's not a brilliant champ. You know, he's no Seal of the Drakes, he's no Wurlim, he's no Warlord, he's no Valkyrie. You know, those champs really bring thing. But again, if he's all you've got, and you gear him better than I have, because like I say, obviously you can see I've got 4-star pieces on him. I've got bits that are only rolled up to 8, so he isn't going to do the best of jobs. Anyway, so. With that being said, we are going to move on to the arena, which is where I think he's most suitable for anyway. And we'll give him a try there and see how he goes. Now, usually, like I say, I use him for 3v3 arena. I don't want to have to go through a whole 3v3 fight just to showcase him. So what we will do is, as per always, we'll refresh. Okay. So this team, biggest problem here you've got, I mean he might still do okay, but the biggest problem you've got here is the fact that obviously his main deal for him is his buffs. The buffs he's giving you is where he's at. So if you go up against somebody like Madame Ceres, she's stripping the buffs, he's going to kind of ruin that a bit. We'll try this one. We want some defensive based champions. In fact, yeah, we'll put him in lead. We'll put Valkyrie, she's a nice defensive based champion. And then we'll put in Madame Ceres to deal with the buffs here. And see how it goes. This is not a team I've even trialled previously. So we'll just see what it can do. On 2 lockouts. Veil shields up. And we'll put up our increased defense and strengthen. Buffs. damage, decrease crit damage. Actually, I kept saying he's only got the one buff. He's actually got that as well, so it probably is worth putting more accuracy into overall, rather than building for damage. Let's try and take Martyr out. Please do some real damage to her. Get a fear out on Skull Crusher. Alright, let's try and do some damage to Syl. So you see the freezer's gone off again. Another freeze on the counter attack. So he pairs quite well with a counter attacker because obviously he's coming back with his A1s and he can freeze people quite a bit, which is nice. If you haven't got a counter attacker, you know, he's still useful, but it does pair nicely. Try and get Syl down before she starts healing people up and bringing them up again. Certainly not a fast fight this way. My normal teams would probably be a little bit faster. Again, I've not got him built that well. Like I say, I'm only using him in 3v3 at the moment. But I definitely need to improve him a little bit over what I've done him at the moment. Let's get this AoE out there. See what we can do with that. So there you go, they're down. So he does some fairly nice damage, and that's with the build I've got, and you saw the build I've got is nothing special. There are lots of pieces that still needed rolling up, lots of pieces that could do with being replaced for better gear. So anyway, we'll end it there. Obviously it was a win. You got to see the benefit that you get with him. Whilst not absolutely amazing, he is strong. And I've gone up against him in the arena, and he can be really tough. You know, he's very tanky, he's hard to take, and he's putting up the defense, he's putting up the strengthen, and he's freezing your team as well. Mine definitely needs to be built up more, especially since I am now using him regularly. I'm going to have to concentrate on that a bit. But the value is still there. Again, is he the best legendary out there? No. I'd say sort of more middle of the pack. But he is still a worthy champion, and he's still good in his own right. He's definitely good for faction wars, and he's definitely good for the arena. Dungeons, you'll have to base that on what you've got and how you want to use him. But again, built right, he can certainly still help carry your team. It's just whether or not he'll be enough on his own. Anyway, that's Wurlim Frostking. He is a good champ. He's certainly not one of the better ones I've covered, which is a bit of a shame because, you know, I've been covering epics and rares, but he is still a good champ, and he is worth your time, more so if you don't have better. But, or if you, like I say, you're using him for faction wars, you're using him for 3v3, he's still a worthy champion, he's still worth putting some decent gear on, and that's where I failed with him, is he just doesn't have the gear, and I need to improve on that, especially since I am trying to use him. Anyway, thanks for watching. I still hope you found this informative, and I'll catch you in the next one. If you like the video, give it a like, and please subscribe to see more of the videos I release. Bye.